One key to a strong data-driven culture is delivering professional development that has an impact. Effective professional development is rarely accomplished through lecture. It requires tightly designed activities that lead participants to the right conclusions. Here's a short example of that. In this clip, I am trying to get the leaders to understand the power of assessment. To do so, I showed them the following 6 questions, all assessing percent of a number. Participants were asked to analyze the difference between these questions and to infer what could happen if 6 different teachers used these 6 different questions to assess their students. After giving participants time to reflect quietly and then share with a partner, they shared their thoughts in the large group. Watch what followed. Other conclusions you try? Yeah, Denise.
Just the exact definition of what each teacher is trying to master. If it's just truly computation, then 1 and 2, I can see how that would be it. But just what is the importance, or how does each teacher identify what mastery is for that one standard, and then having the discussion amongst it.
Shannon?
And then just the alignment, it sort of creates like de facto tracking. So if these kids go on the next grade, there's going to be certain students that had teacher X, and then that next year teacher is going to say, oh, well, they didn't prepare you at my grade level. And then it's just going to mess up the flow.
Glenn?
Students also probably feel that way. So if teachers have 6 different perceptions of whether they're getting it or not, students in their classrooms would also have that same inconsistent measurement of their success.
You'll notice that participants are doing most of the talking rather than the facilitator interjecting between each moment. This is what Culture.mov calls volleyball rather than ping pong. Once the main points have been shared by the large group, I take the opportunity to put formal language around their sharing and highlight the core point in the exercise. So we've come up with a really big conclusion that teaching the standards is not enough to determine the rigor of the teaching. Every one of these teachers, you might argue, some might say that the teachers 1 and 2 are not aligned to the standard, although some could argue it. But you can definitely argue that teachers 3 through 6 are aligned to the standard, and yet dramatically different rigor if they get their students to accomplish and be able to achieve that particular question. So standards then, standards are meaningless until you define how to assess them. Standards are meaningless until you define how to assess them. That has huge implications for how we lead our schools. That means that having a curriculum is not enough to define the rigor that we're shooting for. That means that having a guide put in front of us of the order in which we teach the standards is not enough to determine how well we should be teaching them. If standards are meaningless until we define how to assess them, then the assessment is the starting point for teaching, not the end point. Driven by Data provides a framework for leading PD around data-driven instruction, as well as actual lesson plans and materials that make it easy to replicate this PD at your own school.